My wife told me she loved me that morning. That night, she was in a hotel with him. I followed her, hoping it was all a mistake. But the truth hit me like a truck. I always thought cheating was something that happened to other people. The kind of thing you read about online, shake your head at, and think, damn, I can't imagine going through that. But today, I lived it. And now, I don't even know what to do with myself. It all started this morning. Valentine's Day. I woke up feeling pretty good, actually excited, which isn't something I can say often these days. My wife, Erin, and I have been married for 8 years, and if I'm being honest, things haven't been the same for a while. Life got in the way, I guess. Work, stress, routines. But I wanted to change that. I wanted to remind her, and maybe myself, why we fell in love in the first place. So I planned it all out. Nothing crazy, just thoughtful. I took the afternoon off work, picked up her favorite flowers, peonies, not roses. She always said roses were overrated. Got her a small gift I knew she'd love, and made a reservation at the restaurant where we had our first date. I even wrote a damn letter, which is something I haven't done since we were dating. I figured maybe I'd read it to her over dinner. Let her know that even after all these years, I still saw her the same way I did back then. I was that guy today. The hopeful idiot, completely oblivious to what was actually happening. At around 3 p.m., she texted me, "Hey, babe. Gotta work late tonight. Something came up. I'm so sorry. Let's do dinner this weekend instead? Love you." It stung a little, sure, but I didn't get mad. Work happens. I figured I'd surprise her anyway. Maybe bring her a coffee to help her through the long shift and at least steal a few minutes together. That was the moment everything started to fall apart. When I got that text, I didn't think much of it. Disappointed? Yeah, but I wasn't mad. Things had been stressful for Erin at work lately, and I figured she was just swamped. So I decided to do something sweet. Swing by her office with her favorite caramel macchiato and maybe a quick hug before heading home. I left home around 5:30, feeling pretty good about my plan. The flowers sat in the passenger seat, the small gift wrapped neatly beside them. The letter, folded up in my jacket pocket. I imagined her lighting up when she saw me, maybe giving me a tired but grateful smile, telling me how much she appreciated the effort. I imagined us stealing a moment in the middle of her busy shift, something to make the night a little less miserable for both of us. But when I pulled up near her office building, something felt off. The parking lot wasn't as full as I expected for a place where everyone was supposedly working late. Maybe some of them had left already, but still, a weird feeling crept in. I shook it off and grabbed my phone, about to text her that I was outside. Then I saw her. Not inside the office. Not at her desk through the glass windows. She was outside, standing near the curb, her coat wrapped around her. And she wasn't alone. Some guy, tall, dark jacket, hands in his pockets, stood next to her. Too close. Close enough that when he leaned in, she laughed. Not just a polite, work friend kind of laugh. A real one. The kind I hadn't heard from her in a long time. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. I told myself, relax. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just a coworker. Maybe she really did have to stay late, and she's just catching a break outside. But I didn't move. I just watched. Then she reached out and touched his arm. And something inside me cracked. I sat there, frozen, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. She touched his arm. A light touch, just a second or two, but enough to make my stomach twist into a knot so tight I felt like I might throw up. I told myself, maybe it's nothing. Maybe he was just a coworker. Maybe he had said something funny, and she was just being friendly. But then he opened the passenger door of his car, and she got in. Just like that. No hesitation. No looking around, no checking her phone, no rush to get back inside because she was working late. She slid into his car like it was second nature, like she had done it before. I felt my heart hammering against my ribs. My body went ice cold, but my hands were burning as they gripped the wheel. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I told myself to calm down. Maybe they were just carpooling. Maybe she had parked somewhere else, and he was just giving her a lift to her car. Maybe this was all one giant misunderstanding, and I was being paranoid. But deep down, I already knew. I turned off my headlights and pulled out of the parking lot, keeping a safe distance behind them. My pulse pounded in my ears, drowning out everything else. With every turn they made, my hope slipped away. They weren't headed toward another office building. They weren't stopping at a coffee shop or a restaurant. They were leaving the downtown area entirely. I felt like I was outside of my own body, watching myself drive. I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles ached, my mind racing through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Maybe they're just getting food. Maybe it's a work-related errand. Maybe she's been struggling with something, and I've been too checked out to notice, and this is just a friend helping her through it. But then the neon lights of a hotel came into view, and that's when the last bit of denial died inside me. The hotel wasn't anything extravagant, nothing that screamed romance or passion. Just one of those chain places people use when they're passing through town. A place meant for business travelers or people who need a bed for the night. Nothing more. But in that moment, as I sat there in the dim glow of my dashboard, watching my wife step out of another man's car, it felt like the most devastating place in the world. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my fingers ached, my breath coming in short, uneven bursts as if my lungs had suddenly forgotten how to function properly. My heart wasn't just pounding. It was slamming against my ribs, an erratic, painful rhythm that I could feel all the way up to my throat. Every part of me was screaming to get out of the car, to call her name, to run up to them and demand an explanation, to force her to look me in the eyes and tell me what the hell was going on. But I didn't. Instead, I just sat there, frozen in place, my body locked in this horrible in-between space where my brain refused to fully accept what my eyes were seeing. Because if I didn't move, if I didn't react, maybe this wouldn't be real. She closed the car door gently, like she had all the time in the world, and instead of rushing inside like someone sneaking around, instead of looking over her shoulder to make sure she wasn't being followed, she just stood there, waiting for him. That was the part that made my stomach churn the most, the casualness of it all, the way she wasn't nervous or hurried or guilty. And then he stepped out of the car, too. Tall, confident, moving like a man who had done this before. They didn't speak, at least not from what I could see, but they didn't need to. Because when he came around the car and stopped beside her, she turned to face him, and even from where I was parked, far enough away that they wouldn't notice me. I could see the way her body softened, the way her shoulders relaxed, the way her entire posture shifted into something open and familiar. And then she reached for his hand. I swear to God, it felt like the air had been sucked out of the world. My vision tunneled. My entire body tensed so hard it felt like I was about to shatter into pieces. Because that wasn't just some friendly gesture. That wasn't just a thank you for the ride touch. That was something else, something intimate, something that belonged to us, except it didn't anymore. She was holding his hand the way she used to hold mine when we were younger, when she still wanted to touch me, when she still chose me. I should have gotten out of the car right then and there. I should have called her name so loud she had no choice but to turn and face me. I should have marched across that parking lot and demanded to know what the hell was happening. Why my wife? The woman I had spent years building a life with, was standing outside a damn hotel, touching another man like he was hers. But I didn't. I just sat there and watched as they walked inside together, their hands dropping to their sides only when they got close to the entrance, as if that small act of pretending they weren't together would somehow erase what had already happened, what was still happening right in front of my eyes. Watched as she tilted her head toward him, as if she was laughing at something he said, as if this was fun for her. As if she wasn't walking into that hotel knowing damn well that her husband was at home, waiting for her, planning a surprise for her, loving her. Watched as they stopped at the front desk, the receptionist barely even glancing at them before sliding a paper across the counter. Watched as she, my wife, reached for the pen without hesitation, no nervous glance around the room, no pause, no guilt, just a smooth, effortless motion, like she had done this 100 times before. And then she signed her name. That was it. That was the moment everything inside me finally shattered, the moment the last thread of denial snapped, the moment I could no longer convince myself that this was some innocent misunderstanding, because people don't check into hotels like that for work, they don't hold hands with coworkers, they don't smile like that unless they know exactly what they're doing. And she knew. She knew, and she didn't care. I don't know how long I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the hotel entrance like if I focused hard enough, I could change what was happening inside. My mind kept replaying the past few minutes on a sickening, endless loop. The way she had reached for his hand, the way they had walked inside together, the way she had leaned into him just enough to show that this wasn't some new thing, wasn't some spur-of-the-moment, one-time mistake. She had done this before, and she was comfortable. That was the part that twisted the knife even deeper. It wasn't just that she had checked into a hotel with another man. It was the ease of it, the casualness of it. Like she knew exactly where to go, how to move, what to say. Like she'd done this so many times that it didn't even register as something wrong anymore. My wife. The woman I had built my life around. The woman I trusted. I clenched my jaw so hard I felt my teeth grinding together. My entire body locked in this unbearable tension, like I was seconds away from either breaking down or breaking something. And then, Before I even realized what I was doing, I was moving. My door was open. My feet hit the pavement. My breath came sharp and ragged as I walked. No, stormed. Across the parking lot, my pulse hammering in my ears so loudly I could barely hear anything else. I didn't have a plan. I didn't think about what I would say or do when I reached her. All I knew was that I couldn't just sit there and watch. I couldn't let her disappear behind some hotel room door with him while I just sat there, waiting to be destroyed. The automatic doors slid open as I stepped inside, and the rush of warm, artificially scented air hit me like a wall. The lobby was quiet, only a few people sitting around in chairs, scrolling through their phones or sipping bad hotel coffee, completely unaware that my entire world was collapsing in real time. And then I saw her. She was still at the front desk, standing next to him, her purse tucked under her arm, her posture relaxed, her face calm. She wasn't anxious. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't looking around, checking over her shoulder, worried that someone, me, might see her. She had no idea I was standing just feet away, watching her sign her name on the check-in form, watching her accept the key card with a soft, appreciative smile, the kind of smile I hadn't seen in years. And then she turned to him, murmuring something under her breath, something low and private, something intimate. And that's when it hit me. She wasn't just cheating on me. She had left me. Maybe not officially, maybe not in a way that involved lawyers or divorce papers or long, painful conversations, but in every way that mattered, she had already moved on. She was his now, and I was nothing but a loose end she hadn't gotten around to cutting yet. The realization knocked the wind out of me so hard I actually stumbled back, my stomach twisting violently, my vision blurring at the edges. I thought I had been prepared for this moment, thought I had steeled myself for the confirmation, but nothing could have prepared me for the gut-wrenching, soul-crushing pain of seeing my wife with another man and knowing she had already let me go. I should have gone up to her, should have said her name, should have made her look me in the eyes and explain how the hell we got here. But I didn't. Because the truth was, I already knew, and I wasn't sure I could survive hearing her say it out loud. I don't know how I made it back to my car. One moment, I was standing in that hotel lobby, my entire body buzzing with so much rage and devastation that I thought I might actually collapse, and the next, I was gripping the edge of my car door, my knees threatening to give out, my breath coming in short, uneven gasps that barely reached my lungs. She was upstairs, right now, with him. I squeezed my eyes shut, but it didn't help. I could still see it. I could feel it. The way she had smiled at him, the way she had turned to whisper something in his ear, the way her fingers had lightly brushed his wrist before she took that key card and headed toward the elevator, as if this was just another night for them. And maybe it was. Maybe this wasn't new. Maybe this had been happening for weeks, months, years. My stomach twisted violently, a wave of nausea rolling through me so hard I had to brace my hand against the car, sucking in sharp, ragged breaths to keep myself from doubling over right there in the parking lot. My pulse was hammering in my ears, drowning out everything else, my vision swimming with every worst-case scenario my mind could conjure. Had she been with him the nights she came home late from work, claiming she had a big project to finish? Had she been with him the weekends she told me she was going out with friends, too tired to do anything with me, but somehow full of energy to be somewhere else? Had she been texting him from the other side of our bed, lying next to me, sending him messages while I sat there like a goddamn idiot thinking we were just another married couple going through a rough patch? I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. I wanted to scream. I wanted to punch something. I wanted to do something, anything, to make this pain feel like something other than complete, raw devastation, because right now, it was consuming me, hollowing me out from the inside like a parasite, leaving nothing but a shell of the man I was when I woke up this morning, thinking I was happy. I had spent my entire day planning a surprise for her, and she had spent hers planning a night with him. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh, but there was nothing funny about it. I must have looked insane, standing there in the dim parking lot, laughing under my breath while my entire life crumbled around me. I should go inside. I should take the elevator up to whatever floor they were on. I should pound on the door until she had no choice but to face me, to explain herself, to tell me to my face why she had thrown everything we built away for some guy who wasn't me. But then what? Would she even care? Would she even feel guilty? Or would she just stare at me with that same distant expression she'd worn for the past few months, the one that made me feel like she had already left me long before I ever caught her in the act? I swallowed the lump in my throat, my vision blurring as the weight of it all finally crashed down on me. She was gone. Not physically, not yet, but in every way that mattered. She was already his, and I had been too blind to see it. I sat in my car, staring at the hotel entrance, my body frozen in place, my mind fractured into 1,000 jagged pieces that I couldn't seem to put back together. The reality of it all was settling in, thick and suffocating, pressing down on my chest like a weight I'd never be able to lift. She was upstairs, right now, with him, my wife, the woman I had spent years loving, building a life with, planning for the future with, the woman I had trusted more than anyone in this world. And she was in a hotel room with another man. It was like an open wound that refused to clot, like someone had reached inside my chest and squeezed until everything inside me turned to dust. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white, my breath coming in sharp, uneven bursts. I wanted to move. I wanted to act. I wanted to storm through that hotel lobby, march up to whatever room she was in, and make her face me. Make her look me in the eyes and say whatever pathetic excuse she was going to come up with. I wanted to see her expression when she realized she'd been caught, when she had to deal with the fallout of her betrayal instead of hiding behind lies and secrecy. But I couldn't, because I knew, deep down, I knew, that nothing she said would fix this. Nothing she did could undo what I had just seen. She had already chosen, and she hadn't chosen me. A bitter, burning sensation crawled up my throat, and I clenched my jaw, trying to swallow it down, but it was useless. The pain was too raw, too deep, too consuming. It spread through me like wildfire, destroying everything in its path, turning every happy memory, every moment of our marriage, into something ugly and tainted. The worst part was, I still loved her. Even after everything, even knowing what she was doing upstairs right now, a part of me still loved her. And that realization hurt more than anything else. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to push it all away. The anger, the betrayal, the unbearable ache in my chest. But it was useless. It was all there, suffocating me, drowning me in a pain I didn't know how to escape. I could leave. I could start my car, drive away, pretend I never saw any of this, go home and sit in the dark until I figured out what the hell I was supposed to do next. But then what? Would I wait for her to come home? Would I sit at the kitchen table, pretending everything was fine, while she walked through the door hours from now with the smell of him still on her skin? Would I let her lie to me again, tell me she had to work late, kiss me goodnight with lips that had just been on another man? I felt sick. Physically, violently sick. I gripped the door handle, my muscles tensing, my body screaming at me to do something, but I didn't know what. I had never felt so lost in my entire life. And then, like a knife straight through my ribs, one final, unbearable thought hit me. She didn't even think about me tonight. Not once. She wasn't up there, feeling guilty. She wasn't hesitating. She wasn't second-guessing her choices. She was with him. And I was out here, breaking apart over a woman who had already left me behind. I don't know how long I sat there. Maybe minutes. Maybe hours. Time didn't feel real anymore. It was just a heavy, suffocating thing pressing down on me, keeping me frozen in place, making it impossible to think, to move, to breathe. Inside that hotel, my wife was with another man. She was touching him, kissing him, giving him the parts of herself that used to belong to me. And I was out here, drowning in the wreckage of everything I thought we had. The worst part was that nothing about this felt like a mistake. It wasn't a drunken one-night stand, some stupid lapse in judgment that she'd regret in the morning. No, this was deliberate, planned, thought out. How many times had she done this? How many nights had I sat at home, waiting for her, trusting her, while she was somewhere else with him? I clenched my jaw, my fists tightening so hard I thought my knuckles might split open. She was a liar, a cheater, a woman who had looked me in the eyes day after day, night after night, and told me she loved me, while all along, she was keeping this secret buried beneath her smiles and soft reassurances. I wanted to be angry. I should have been angry. But mostly, I just felt hollow, like something inside me had cracked wide open, and now there was nothing left but an empty, gaping space where my heart used to be. My entire life, my marriage was a lie, and I hadn't seen it. Had she ever really loved me? Or had she just gotten comfortable? Had she stayed because it was easy, because I was the safe, stable option, the man she could rely on while she got whatever she really wanted somewhere else? I thought about our wedding day, the way she had looked at me when she said her vows, the way her hands had trembled when she slipped the ring onto my finger, the way she had cried during our first dance. Was any of it real? Or had she always been capable of this? I squeezed my eyes shut, my breath shuddering out of me in sharp, uneven bursts. I couldn't sit here anymore. I couldn't just watch my life collapse. I had to move. I had to do something. I reached for my phone, my fingers numb and clumsy as I pulled up her number. My thumb hovered over the call button, but then I hesitated. What would I even say? Would I scream at her? Demand answers? Beg her to come downstairs and look me in the eyes while she told me why she had destroyed us? Or would I just listen to whatever pathetic excuse she came up with? Let her lie to me one more time. Let her twist the knife deeper. I didn't know, and that scared me more than anything else. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't know if I even wanted to hear her voice. Didn't know if I could handle whatever bullshit explanation she would try to feed me. Didn't know if I had the strength to listen to her tell me that she was sorry. Because sorry wasn't enough. Not for this. Not for what she had done. I let the phone drop into my lap, staring blankly at the glowing screen. I had never felt so lost. Never felt so utterly, completely alone. I stared at my phone, the glow of her name on the screen like a beacon of everything I had lost. Erin, my wife. The woman I had shared my life with for the past 8 years. The woman I had loved with every single piece of myself, who had smiled at me across our kitchen table, who had kissed me goodbye in the mornings, who had laughed with me over inside jokes no one else would ever understand. And now, she was upstairs with another man. She wasn't thinking about me. She wasn't feeling guilty. She wasn't hesitating, wasn't looking at her phone, wasn't worrying about where I was or what I might be doing. She was gone. Maybe she had been gone for a long time. Maybe I had just been too blind, too stupid, too trusting, to see it. I let the phone fall from my hand, my chest tight, my throat burning, my entire body numb with something so heavy, so unbearable, that it didn't even feel like pain anymore. It was just emptiness. Like something inside me had collapsed, and I didn't know if I'd ever be able to put it back together. My fingers trembled as I ran them through my hair, exhaling shakily, trying to think. But my thoughts weren't thoughts anymore. They were just jagged, broken pieces of something that used to make sense. She had made a choice. She had chosen him. Over me. Over everything we built. Over the life we had. A bitter laugh clawed its way out of my throat, but it wasn't really a laugh. It was something else. Something ugly. Something that barely made it past my lips before dying out. What the hell was I supposed to do now? Go home? Sit in the dark, waiting for her to come back like nothing had happened? Pretend I didn't see? Pretend I didn't know? No, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. She had already burned us to the ground, and I wasn't going to sit in the ashes, waiting for her to come back and explain why she had struck the match. I wiped a hand over my face, trying to steady myself, trying to figure out the next step. I could go inside, confront her, watch her scramble for an excuse, watch her stammer through whatever pathetic lie she thought would soften the blow. But what was the point? She had already said everything she needed to say. She had said it when she got in that man's car. She had said it when she held his hand. She had said it when she walked into this hotel with him, when she signed her name on that check-in form, when she took that key card without a second thought. I didn't need her words. Her actions told me everything. I inhaled sharply, my hand still shaking as I grabbed my phone again, this time pulling up a different number. My best friend, Matt. The one person I could call without falling apart completely. The phone rang once, twice. Then his groggy voice came through. Dude, it's late. Everything okay? I swallowed, but the lump in my throat didn't budge. No, I said, my voice hoarse, wrecked. I need a place to crash. A pause. And then, softer, more awake, more alert. What happened? I exhaled, staring up at the glowing hotel sign, my chest tightening, my stomach twisting. My wife's cheating on me. The words felt foreign coming out of my mouth, like I was saying them for someone else, like this wasn't really my life, like it was some nightmare I'd wake up from at any second. But I wasn't dreaming. This was real. Matt cursed under his breath. Where are you? I gave him the address. Come over, he said immediately. I'll be up. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Yeah, okay. I hung up. For a second, I just sat there, staring at my reflection in the windshield. At the man I had been this morning. The man who had woken up thinking he had a wife, a marriage, a future. That man was dead now, and I didn't know who the hell was left in his place. I started the car, and I drove away. The drive to Matt's house was a blur. I barely remember the streets, the traffic lights, the glow of headlights passing me on the highway. My hands gripped the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from completely falling apart. But the truth was, I had already shattered. She did this to me. Erin did this to me. And the worst part? She didn't even know that right now. I was driving away. She had no idea that the man she had betrayed, the man she had lied to and cheated on, was leaving. No idea that I had seen her, that I had watched her walk into that hotel with another man. No idea that while she was upstairs in that room, undressing, kissing him, giving him what used to be mine, I was out here, breaking into pieces. I was nothing more than an afterthought to her. By the time I pulled into Matt's driveway, my body felt heavy, my limbs drained of energy, like I had been running for hours without stopping. The porch light flicked on before I even reached the door. Matt must have been watching from the window, because the second I stepped out of my car, he was already there, waiting for me. He didn't say anything at first, just took one look at me, at whatever mess of a man was standing in front of him, and stepped aside to let me in. The warmth of his house hit me like a punch to the chest, the normalcy of it too much to handle. The smell of coffee still lingered in the air. A blanket was draped over the couch from where he had probably been dozing before I called. Shoes were kicked off lazily by the door. Home. This was what home was supposed to feel like. Simple, steady, real. Not whatever lie I had been living. I swallowed hard, stepping inside, the weight of the night pressing down on me like a tidal wave. Matt shut the door behind me and turned, arms crossed. You want to tell me what happened? I opened my mouth to answer, but nothing came out. Because where the hell was I supposed to start? How do you sum up the complete and total destruction of your marriage in a few sentences? How do you put into words the feeling of watching your wife, the woman you built a life with, walk into a hotel with another man? I dropped onto his couch instead, elbows on my knees, my hands in my hair. Matt sat across from me, waiting, patient, not pushing, just there. And for some reason, that broke me more than anything else. Because she should have been here. She should have been the one I turned to. The one sitting beside me, telling me it was all going to be okay. But she wasn't. She was still at that hotel, in that bed, with him. I felt my throat close up, my breath hitch, something hot and painful pressing behind my eyes. I didn't want to cry. I hated crying. But what the hell else was I supposed to do? Matt leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. She's cheating on you? I nodded, my hands tightening into fists. Yeah. How do you know? I let out a bitter, hollow laugh. Because I saw her. His jaw tensed. Jesus. Yeah. I exhaled, shaking my head. She told me she had to work late. So I went to her office to surprise her. But she wasn't there. I swallowed, my throat dry, scratchy. I saw her get into his car. Followed them. They went to a hotel. Matt muttered another curse under his breath. I ran a hand over my face, exhausted. She checked in, Matt. Signed her name like it was nothing. She wasn't scared. She wasn't hesitating. She knew exactly what she was doing. I expected him to say something. Some words of comfort. Some cliché like she's not worth it or you deserve better. But he didn't. He just sat there, his expression unreadable. And honestly, that was better. Because there were no words that could fix this. I let out a breath, my chest aching. I don't know what to do. Matt leaned back, rubbing his jaw. Are you gonna confront her? I thought about it. Thought about walking into our house tomorrow and waiting for her to come home. Thought about the look on her face when she saw me standing there, waiting. Thought about the way she'd open her mouth, try to come up with some pathetic excuse, some lie that she knew wouldn't work. And I thought about how much I didn't want to hear it. No, I muttered. Not yet. Matt nodded like he understood. You gonna stay here for a while? Yeah. Another silence settled between us. But this time, it wasn't suffocating. This time, it felt like something solid. Like the first real thing I had felt all night. I sat back against the couch, staring at the ceiling, my chest rising and falling with every slow, steady breath. Erin was gone. Maybe she had been gone for a long time. But for the first time tonight, I wasn't the one waiting for her to come home. I was done waiting. I was done hurting myself over someone who had already thrown me away. And I had no idea what came next. But at least for now, I wasn't alone.